The year was 2137, and Earth had changed a lot. Humans now lived on Mars and had built small bases all around the solar system. But they still hadn't met any aliens. Some people thought aliens didn't exist. Others thought aliens were hiding. Dr. Allison Wright didn't care much about that debate. She only cared about her work. Dr. Wright worked at the Global Science Initiative in New Mexico. She was a quantum physicist, which meant she studied very small things that didn't follow normal rules. For 3 years, she had been working on something special, something that could change time itself. One day, while testing her equipment, Dr. Wright noticed strange signals coming from far away beyond Pluto. At first, she thought her machines were broken, but after checking everything twice, she knew the signals were real. "Get me the director," she told her assistant, a young man named Paul. Now, within the hour, Dr. Wright was showing her findings to Director Sam Rogers and a group of serious-looking government officials. "The signals follow a mathematical pattern," she explained, pointing to her screens. "It's not natural. Someone is sending this." 2 days later, every telescope on Earth and Mars was pointed toward the edge of the solar system. And that's when they saw it. A ship, bigger than any human vessel ever built, moving toward Earth. The world held its breath. Presidents and prime ministers made speeches about staying calm. Religious leaders talked about God's plan. And regular people either partied like it was the end of the world or hid in their homes. The alien ship stopped near Jupiter. Then, it sent a message in perfect English. "Greetings, people of Earth. We are representatives of the Galactic Council. We come in peace and wish to invite humanity to join our community of civilizations." Captain Nathan Harris was eating dinner with his wife when he got the call. As one of Earth Space Force's top officers, he wasn't surprised to be summoned. But he was surprised by the mission. Lead the human delegation to meet with the aliens. "Why me?" he asked General Oliver on the video call. "Because you're the best. We've got Harris. And because you've got a cool head, we don't need someone who will panic if these aliens turn out to be dangerous." 3 days later, Captain Harris was on a shuttle headed toward the alien ship, along with a team carefully chosen from around the world. Dr. Allison Wright was there too, much to her surprise. "I'm a physicist, not a diplomat," she had protested when they asked her to join. "These aliens have technology we can't even imagine," they told her. "We need someone who might understand it." The human shuttle docked with the alien vessel, which they now knew was called the Harmony of Stars. Captain Harris led the team through the airlock, trying to look confident even though his heart was racing. The aliens waiting for them looked almost like tall, thin humans with light blue skin and large eyes. Their leader stepped forward. "I am High Ambassador Zorthal of the Viridian species," he said in a musical voice. "Welcome aboard. We are pleased to make contact with your species." Ambassador Zorthal gave them a tour of the ship. It was amazing, full of technology that seemed like magic to the humans. Plants grew on the walls. Doors opened before anyone touched them. And through big windows, they could see small robots fixing the outside of the ship. "Your vessel is impressive," Captain Harris said. "This?" Zorthal made a sound that might have been a laugh. "This is just a diplomatic vessel. Nothing special by council standards." During dinner in a room with a view of Jupiter, the humans learned more about the Galactic Council. It had 127 different species from all over the galaxy. Some were old, civilizations that had been traveling in space for thousands of years. Others were newer, like humans. "Where would humans fit in this council?" asked Maria Gonzalez, one of the diplomats. Zorthal hesitated. "Well, the council ranks civilizations by their technological achievements. Based on what we've observed, humans would be considered a Tier 3 civilization." "And what does that mean?" Captain Harris asked. "It means you're still developing." Tier 3. Species have basic space travel and have unified their planet to some degree. You would have limited representation and would be under the guidance of more advanced species. Dr. Wright had been quiet all evening, but now she spoke up. "And what would make a civilization Tier 1? "Oh, that's reserved for species that have mastered truly advanced concepts, like faster-than-light travel, gravity manipulation, or..." Well, some theoretical abilities that haven't been achieved yet. Like what? Dr. Wright pressed. Time manipulation, for instance, Zorthal said casually. But that's considered impossible by our scientists. The laws of physics simply don't allow it. Dr. Wright caught Captain Harris's eye and gave him a small nod. He understood immediately. There was something she wasn't saying in front of the aliens. Later that night, when they were alone in their quarters, Dr. Wright showed Captain Harris something on her tablet. "This is what my team has been working on for the past 3 years," she said. On the screen was a complex diagram labeled Temporal Field Generator. "You're saying you've been working on time manipulation?" Harris asked, keeping his voice low. "Not just working on it. We've had successful tests. Small scale, of course, slowing down time in an area the size of a coin. But it works, Captain." Harris sat down, suddenly feeling the weight of this information. "And the aliens don't know?" "No one knows except my small team and now you. We kept it secret because we weren't sure what would happen if the technology got out. So while they think we're just a simple Tier 3 civilization," Harris began, "might actually qualify for Tier 1, Wright finished. If this Galactic Council is going to look down on us and try to control us, maybe they should know what humans are really capable of." Captain Harris looked out the window at Jupiter's swirling clouds. Tomorrow they would head to Earth, where the aliens would meet with world leaders. Soon after, a human delegation would travel to the Galactic Hub to formally request membership in the Council. "Don't tell anyone else yet," he told Dr. Wright. "Let's see what these aliens really want before we show our full hand." Dr. Wright nodded. As she left his room, she couldn't help but smile. Humans had always been good at surprising others, and she had a feeling the Galactic Council was in for the biggest surprise of all. The human delegation prepared to leave Earth. After a week of meetings between world leaders and the aliens, it was time to visit the Galactic Hub. 4 people were chosen to represent humanity: Captain Nathan Harris, Dr. Allison Wright, diplomat Laura Simmons, and military advisor Colonel Eric Daniels. They packed light. The journey would take 3 weeks on the alien ship, even though the Galactic Hub was hundreds of light years away. The ship could bend space somehow to travel faster than light. This was technology humans had only dreamed about. On the day of the departure, a small crowd gathered to see them off. Family members hugged their loved ones goodbye. Captain Harris kissed his wife and promised to send messages when possible. Dr. Wright had no family to say goodbye to. Her work had always been her life. "Nervous?" Captain Harris asked her as they boarded the shuttle that would take them to the Harmony of Stars. "About the space travel?" "No," she replied. "About showing a bunch of advanced aliens that they're wrong. About what's possible. Maybe a little." The shuttle docked with the massive alien ship. High Ambassador Zorthal welcomed them aboard again. This time, they were shown to private rooms where they would live during the journey. The rooms adjusted to human preferences, with Earth-like gravity and temperature. "Your comfort is important to us," Zorthal said. "Please consider the Harmony of Stars your temporary home." The ship moved away from Earth, and soon their home planet was just a blue dot in the distance. Then it was gone, as the ship activated its faster-than-light drive. The humans felt a strange tingling sensation, and then the stars outside the windows blurred. During the journey, the humans learned about the many alien species in the Council. There were the Viridians like Zorthal, who were natural diplomats. There were the plant-like Chlorans, who could live for thousands of years. The insect-like Kalari had built the fastest ships, and the warlike Dravek were feared by many species. "The Council has brought peace to most of the galaxy," Zorthal explained during one of their daily briefings. "Though there are still disagreements, sometimes." "And where will humans fit in?" Laura Simmons asked. She was a sharp diplomat who had worked at the United Nations for 20 years. "As I mentioned before, you would be Tier 3, Zorthal said. "You would have one representative who could attend council meetings but could not vote on major decisions." Colonel Daniels, a tall man with a serious face, frowned. "So we'd be second-class citizens of the galaxy?" "I wouldn't put it that way," Zorthal said quickly. "Think of it as Having mentors. More advanced species can help guide your development. Guide or control. Colonel Daniels muttered, but only Captain Harris heard him. When not in meetings, Dr. Wright spent time in the ship's laboratory. The aliens had allowed her to use their equipment, thinking she was just studying their technology. But she was secretly communicating with her team back on Earth. "How's the project going?" she asked in a video call, being careful with her words in case the aliens were listening. "Progress is good," her assistant Paul replied. "The test last week was successful at 30 centimeters. We think we can scale up to 1 meter soon." This was good news. The time manipulation field was growing larger. Soon it would be big enough for a real demonstration. As the journey continued, Captain Harris noticed that some aliens avoided them. Others stared too much. He tried to be friendly to everyone, but it wasn't always easy. One day, he found Colonel Daniels in the ship's observation deck looking at the strange stars outside. "I don't trust them," Daniels said without turning around. "Especially that Zorthal." "Why not?" Harris asked. "I've been watching and listening. The way they talk to each other when they think we can't understand. They see us as children. Or maybe pets." Captain Harris had noticed this too. "Keep your eyes open, but don't start any trouble. We're here to learn and build relationships." 2 weeks into the journey, Dr. Wright got exciting news from Earth. Her team had achieved a breakthrough. The time manipulation field now worked at 1 meter diameter. They could slow time down to half speed or speed it up to twice normal speed within that field. "We did it," Paul told her in their secure call. "We've proven the theory works. Now, we just need to make it bigger and more stable." Dr. Wright couldn't sleep that night. Humans had done what the aliens thought was impossible. But should she tell the rest of the delegation? She decided to wait until she had more proof. On the final day of their journey, the ship slowed down and the blurry stars became clear again. There, hanging in space before them, was the Galactic hub. It was enormous, much bigger than any space station humans had built. It looked like a giant wheel with spokes connecting to a central sphere. Thousands of ships moved around it like bees, around a hive. "The hub is home to over 5 million beings from all council species," Zorthal said proudly. "It orbits a neutron star that provides all the energy we need." As they got closer, they could see that the wheel was made of different sections. Some looked like cities under glass domes. Others were covered in forests or oceans. Each section recreates the home environment of different species, Zorthal explained. "You'll be staying in Section 47, which has been adjusted to Earth conditions." When they docked and entered the hub, the humans were overwhelmed. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the wide hallways. Some walked, others floated, and some used strange machines to get around. The air smelled different in each section, and strange music could be heard from shops and restaurants. Their rooms in Section 47 were small but comfortable. After they settled in, Zorthal introduced them to their guide, a young Viridian named Kelvor. "Kelvor will help you learn your way around the hub," Zorthal said. "Tomorrow, you'll attend your first council session as observers." After Zorthal left, Captain Harris called a private meeting in his room. The 4 humans sat in a circle, speaking quietly. "We need to be careful," Colonel Daniels said. "I've been watching the other aliens' reactions to us. Some seem friendly, but others look at us like we're a problem to solve." Laura Simmons nodded. "I've noticed the same thing. There's politics at play here that we don't understand yet." Dr. Wright had been quiet, but now she spoke. "I have news from my team on Earth. Our project is working better than expected." She told them about the time manipulation breakthrough. Captain Harris listened carefully, then turned to look out the window at the massive hub structure. "So while they think we're just primitive newcomers," he said slowly, "we've actually mastered something they think is impossible." "Exactly," Dr. Wright said with a small smile. "The question is, when do we tell them?" Before anyone could answer, there was a message from Kelvor. The preliminary council session would start in 1 hour. It was time for humans to make their official entrance into galactic politics. The human delegation entered the council chamber and all eyes turned to look at them. The room was huge, shaped like a bowl with thousands of seats rising up from the center. Each seat held a different alien, some looking almost human, and others completely strange. In the middle was a round platform where speakers would stand. Ambassador Joan Phillips had joined them just before the meeting. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes who had been Earth's top diplomat for many years. Now she would speak for all humans. "Remember," she told the others quietly, "we are here to listen and learn. Let me do the talking." High Ambassador Zorthal led them to their seats, which were near the bottom of the bowl, but not on the main floor. Captain Harris noticed that some species had better seats than others. The Viridians sat near the center, along with the insect-like Kalari and some tall gray aliens he didn't recognize. "The Tellurans have the best spots," Laura Simmons whispered, pointing to the gray aliens. "They're one of the oldest species in the Council. They've had space travel for over 50,000 years." The meeting began with announcements in many languages. The humans' translators helped them understand. Most of it was boring: trade agreements, border disputes, and new scientific findings. But then Zorthal stood to speak. "Honored representatives," he said, his voice carried by some unseen system. "As you know, we have made contact with a new species called humans from the planet Earth. Their representatives are here today as observers." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Many aliens turned to look at the humans again. The Admission Committee has reviewed their civilization and recommends they be classified as Tier 3, with standard development oversight. Ambassador Phillips frowned. This was the first she had heard about development oversight. An alien that looked like a tall, praying mantis stood to speak. "I am Zeke Troll of the Dravik Cooperative. We believe stronger measures are needed. Our scouts report that these humans have a history of violence and rapid technological development. We propose placing Earth under protective oversight." Colonel Daniels leaned over to Captain Harris. "Protective oversight. Nice way of saying they want to control us." More aliens stood to speak. Some supported the Dravek view. Others thought the standard Tier 3 classification was enough. A few even suggested humans might deserve Tier 2 status because of how quickly they had developed space travel. Ambassador Phillips listened carefully to all of this, her face calm but her hands tightly clasped. When it was her turn to speak, she walked to the center platform with confidence. "Thank you for welcoming Earth to this gathering of civilizations," she began. "Humans are eager to learn from your wisdom and share our own unique perspectives. While we understand the Council's classification system, we hope you will judge us by our potential as well as our current achievements." It was a good speech, carefully avoiding any promises or arguments. But Captain Harris could see that many Council members had already made up their minds about humans. After the session ended, the human delegation gathered in Ambassador Phillips's room. "That went about as expected," Phillips said. "They see us as children who need guidance. More like a potential threat they want to control," Colonel Daniels added. "This protective oversight would limit our technological development." "Can they do that?" Captain Harris asked. "They have ships that could reach Earth in days," Laura Simmons said, "and weapons we can't match. So yes, if they decided to, they could enforce their rules." Dr. Wright had been quiet during this discussion, but now she spoke up. "I have news. My team sent me a message during the Council session. The time manipulation field now works at 2 meters diameter, and they can slow time to 1/10 normal speed or accelerate it to 5 times normal." The room went silent as everyone thought about what this meant. "That changes everything," Ambassador Phillips said finally. "If humans have mastered something the Council thinks is impossible, our position is much stronger. But we need to be careful how we use this," Captain Harris warned. "If we seem threatening, they might decide to take action against Earth." Their discussion was interrupted by a message from Kelvor, their Viridian guide. A representative of the Tellurans wished to meet with them. An hour later, Captain Harris found himself in a beautiful garden room, sitting across from a tall, gray Telluran. The alien's name was Kilvox, and despite looking old and fragile, his eyes were sharp and intelligent. "I wanted to meet you privately, Captain," Kilvox said in a soft voice. "To warn you." "Warn me about what?" "The Council is not always fair to new species. especially ones that show great potential. Captain, Harris was surprised by the alien's honesty. What do you mean? Long ago, when my species was young, we were placed under protective oversight by the older species. They claimed it was for our own good, but really they feared our technological progress. For 3,000 years, our development was controlled. 3,000 years, that's a long time for humans. Kilvox made a sound that might have been a laugh. For us as well, Captain. What I'm trying to tell you is that there are factions in the Council that do not want humanity to advance too quickly. The Dravik in particular see you as future competition. And what do the Tellerans think of us? We see potential, great potential, but you will need to prove yourselves. After Kilvox left, Captain Harris immediately called the others to share what he had learned. They met in Laura Simmons' room this time. So we have at least one potential ally, Ambassador Phillips said after hearing about the meeting. But many more potential enemies, Colonel Daniels added. The Dravik sound particularly concerning. Dr. Wright had been checking her messages. She looked up with excitement in her eyes. My team has done it. The field is now stable at 3 meters diameter. They've sent me the complete research and blueprints. I could build a small version of the generator here, using parts from my scientific equipment. You want to show them our time technology? Colonel Daniels looked shocked. That would be giving away our biggest advantage. Not giving it away, Dr. Wright said. Demonstrating it, showing them that humans aren't as primitive as they think. Ambassador Phillips thought for a moment. If we requested a formal demonstration session, we could change how the Council sees us. But the timing would have to be perfect. And if it goes wrong? Captain Harris asked. Then Earth could face restrictions or worse, Phillips admitted. They debated long into the night. Finally, they decided to take the risk. Ambassador Phillips would request a formal demonstration session before the full council, where Dr. Wright would reveal human time manipulation technology. The next morning, Phillips submitted the request. To their surprise, it was quickly approved. The council seemed amused by the idea of a Tier 3 species wanting to showcase their technology. They've scheduled us for next week, Phillips told the others. They think it will be entertaining to see what we consider impressive. They're in for quite a surprise, Dr. Wright said with a small smile. For the next week, Dr. Wright worked day and night in their quarters, building a small version of her time manipulation device. The others prepared their strategy for the demonstration and what would come after. The day before the big event, Captain Harris found Dr. Wright still working, her eyes red from lack of sleep. Will it work? He asked. She looked up at him, determination on her face. It will work, and tomorrow the Galactic Council will learn that they've been wrong about what's possible and about humans. The day of the demonstration arrived. The Grand Council chamber was filled with representatives from all 127 species. Word had spread about the humans' presentation, and many came just to be entertained. They expected to see primitive technology that would seem impressive only to humans. Dr. Allison Wright hadn't slept all night. She had worked until the last minute on her device, making sure everything was perfect. The temporal field generator was about the size of a small suitcase, made from her scientific equipment, and some parts borrowed from the Galactic Hub's workshops. It didn't look impressive, just a metal box with some controls and a clear dome on top. Are you ready? Captain Harris asked as they waited outside the chamber. The device is ready, Dr. Wright replied. I'm not sure I am. Ambassador Phillips joined them, dressed in her best formal clothes. Remember the plan. Start small, then build up. We want them surprised but not frightened. Colonel Daniels was more direct. And if they try to take the device or threaten us? Then, I press this button, Dr. Wright said, showing them a small remote in her pocket. It will fry the main circuits. They might get the shell, but they won't get the technology. A bell sounded, and the doors to the Grand Council chamber opened. The human delegation walked to the center platform where everyone could see them. Ambassador Phillips stepped forward first. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, she began. Humans are newcomers to your community of civilizations. You have classified us as Tier 3, based on your understanding of our technological achievements. Today, we wish to demonstrate that human science may be more advanced than you. Realize. There were murmurs around the chamber. High Ambassador Zorthal watched with mild interest from his seat. The Dravek representatives looked suspicious. Phillips continued. I present Dr. Allison Wright, lead physicist from Earth's Global Science Initiative, who will show you something truly remarkable. Dr. Wright stepped forward with her device. Her hands were steady now, her nervousness gone. This was her moment to show what humans could do. Thank you, Ambassador, she said. Esteemed council members, my team on Earth has been researching an area of physics that your scientists believe is impossible. We have developed a method to manipulate the flow of time within a contained field. Laughter broke out in parts of the chamber. Even Zorthal smiled politely, clearly not believing her claim. Rather than try to explain the theory, Dr. Wright continued calmly. I will simply demonstrate it. She placed her device on the platform and opened the clear dome on top. Inside was a small plant in a pot. This is a sunflower seedling, planted 3 days ago on the Galactic Hub, she explained. Under normal conditions, it would take about 2 weeks to flower. Dr. Wright adjusted some controls on her device, then activated it. A faint blue field appeared around the plant, visible to everyone in the chamber. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then slowly the plant began to grow. In just 1 minute, it grew several inches. In 5 minutes, it had a bud. In 10 minutes, a full sunflower had bloomed inside the dome. The chamber went silent. Dr. Wright turned off the device and removed the plant, holding it up for all to see. I have accelerated time for this plant by a factor of about 2,000, she said. 2 weeks of growth in 10 minutes. A Kalari representative moved closer, examining the plant. This could be a trick, perhaps a fast-growing species or some kind of advanced genetic modification. Dr. Wright nodded. A fair point. For my next demonstration, I'll reverse the process. She placed the blooming sunflower back under the dome and adjusted the controls. Again. The blue field appeared once more. Slowly, the flower began to close. The stem shortened. Within minutes, it was a small seedling again. Gasps echoed throughout the chamber. One of the Chloran representatives, a plant-like being, actually trembled. This is not possible, Zorthal said, standing from his seat. Time cannot be reversed. With respect, Ambassador, Dr. Wright replied. You're seeing it happen, but perhaps you need more convincing. She removed the plant and placed a simple clock under the dome. This is a standard clock from our quarters. Everyone can see it shows the correct time. The clock read 14:30, the current time. Dr. Wright activated her device again with different settings. Inside the dome, the clock still ticked, but much slower than normal. In the space of 1 minute, the clock showed only 10 seconds had passed. Now I am slowing time to 1/6 normal speed, Dr. Wright explained, but I can also accelerate it. She adjusted the controls again. Now the clock's hands spun rapidly. In just 30 seconds of chamber time, the clock showed an hour had passed. The demonstrations had caused a stir, but some council members remained skeptical. A Dravek representative stood up, his insect-like form towering over most others. These are interesting tricks, human, but they prove nothing, he said. You could be manipulating the objects somehow. Dr. Wright smiled. Then perhaps we need a more convincing demonstration. Would any council members volunteer to experience the time field themselves? The chamber erupted in surprised conversation. Ambassador Phillips looked nervous. This wasn't part of the plan they had discussed. But Dr. Wright seemed confident. After some discussion, 3 council members agreed to participate. A young Viridian diplomat, a Telluran scientist, and surprisingly, a Dravek observer. Dr. Wright removed the dome from her device and adjusted the controls carefully. I'm going to create a larger field now, enough to encompass all 3 volunteers. I'll slow time for you to half normal speed. You'll experience 1 minute while we experience 2. She activated the device. A larger blue field appeared, surrounding the 3 volunteers. Outside the field, everything looked normal. But the movements of those inside seemed sluggish and slow. The Viridian tried to raise his hand, but it moved at half speed. The Dravik spoke, but his words came out deep and stretched. The entire council watched in amazement. When exactly 2 minutes had passed outside the field, Dr. Wright turned it off. The blue glow disappeared. "How long did that feel to you?" she asked the volunteers. "About 1 minute," the Tellurian scientist said, checking his own timepiece. "But 2 minutes passed out here. Incredible." The Dravik was silent, his compound eyes fixed on Dr. Wright's device. For her final demonstration, Dr. Wright expanded the field even further to cover a section of seats where about 20 council members sat. "This time I'll accelerate time for this section," she announced. "You'll experience 2 minutes while we experience 1. She activated the device again. The blue field covered the council members, who now moved at twice normal speed. Their gestures were quick, their speech high-pitched and fast. After exactly 1 minute, Dr. Wright turned off the device. "How long did that feel to you?" she asked again. 2 minutes exactly, several voices confirmed, checking their timepieces in shock. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some council members jumped from their seats, shouting questions or demands. Others sat frozen in shock. High Ambassador Zorthal's blue face had turned pale. He stood, swayed slightly, and then collapsed back into his seat. Several other council members also fainted or needed support from their neighbors. The Grand Arbiter, an ancient being who rarely spoke, rose from his central seat. "This session is an emergency recess," his voice boomed through the chamber. "All members will reconvene in 3 hours to discuss this development." As the chamber emptied in a rush of confused and excited aliens, Captain Harris moved close to Dr. Wright. "I think you made your point," he said quietly, "though I'm not sure if they're amazed or terrified." "Probably both," Dr. Wright replied, carefully packing up her device. "And this was just a small demonstration. Wait until they find out what the full-size generator can do." 3 hours later, the Grand Council chamber was even more crowded than before. News of the human demonstration had spread throughout the galactic hub. Species that normally sent only one representative now had their full diplomatic teams present. The air buzzed with excited conversation. The human delegation waited in a small room near the chamber. They could hear the noise from outside. "Sounds like we got their attention," Colonel Daniel said, checking the security of the room for the 5th time. He didn't trust the aliens not to try to steal Dr. Wright's device. Dr. Wright was making small adjustments to her temporal field generator. The demonstrations had drained its power, and she wanted to make sure it would work if needed again. "What's our plan now?" Captain Harris asked Ambassador Phillips. "We wait to see their reaction," she replied. "They might be impressed or they might be scared. Either way, we need to be ready." A chime sounded, indicating it was time to enter the chamber. The human delegation walked in together, heads held high. This time they weren't given seats on Talmor, the lower levels. Instead, they were directed to the center platform where everyone could see them. The Grand Arbiter, an ancient being with pale skin and eyes that seemed to change color, called the session to order. The chamber fell silent. "We have witnessed something unprecedented today," the Arbiter said, his voice surprisingly strong for his frail appearance. "A Tier 3 civilization has demonstrated technology that our scientists have long believed impossible. The Council must now decide how to respond." High Ambassador Zorthal stood. He looked shaken but had recovered from his fainting spell. "Honored Arbiter, fellow representatives," he began. "What we have seen is indeed remarkable, but we must consider the implications carefully. Time manipulation technology could be dangerous in inexperienced hands. I propose that the humans share their research with the Council's Science Division for proper oversight." Captain Harris noticed he carefully avoided saying they should give up the technology completely. The Dravik leader, Ziktral, was less subtle. "This technology must be contained," he buzzed angrily. "A species with barely a century of spaceflight cannot be trusted with such power. I propose immediate containment measures for Earth and confiscation of all research related to time manipulation." Several species shouted their agreement. Others protested. The chamber grew loud with arguments. Then, to everyone's surprise, Kilvox of the Tellerans stood. The ancient species rarely spoke at council meetings, preferring to observe. When they did speak, everyone listened. "For too long," Kilvox said in his quiet voice that somehow carried through the chamber. "The council has enforced a hierarchy based on what we believe to be possible. The humans have shown us that our understanding is incomplete. Rather than fear this, we should embrace it. I propose that humanity be granted full Tier 1 status immediately." This caused even more chaos. Tier 1 status would give humans equal standing with the oldest species in the council. Many representatives shouted objections. The Grand Arbiter raised his hand for silence. When the noise died down, he turned to Ambassador Phillips. "The human representative may speak," he said. Ambassador Phillips stepped forward. This was the moment they had prepared for, but the stakes were higher than they had imagined. She nodded to Captain Harris, who gave her a small sign of encouragement. "Thank you, Grand Arbiter," she began. "Honored representatives of the Council, today Dr. Wright has shown you just a small example of what human science has achieved. But there is something you should know." She paused, looking around the chamber, to make sure all eyes were on her. "The device you saw today is only a prototype, built here with limited materials. On Earth, we have already constructed a full-scale temporal field generator. It can create a field large enough to protect our entire planet." This was a bluff, but a calculated one. Dr. Wright's team had indeed built a larger generator, though nothing that could cover Earth. But the aliens wouldn't know that. Zik Tral of the Dravek stood again. "Are you threatening the Council?" "Not at all," Phillips replied calmly. "I am simply explaining our position. Humanity seeks peaceful cooperation with all species, but we will not accept subjugation or protective oversight from anyone. We come to the galactic community as equals, not as children to be controlled." The chamber was silent as her words sank in. Captain Harris stepped forward to stand beside her. "I would like to add that we have no intention of using our technology for anything but peaceful purposes," he said. "But we will defend our right to develop at our own pace, following our own path." The Grand Arbiter nodded slowly. "The Council will recess for 1 hour to consider this matter. All senior representatives will join me in the inner chamber for discussion." When the Council returned, the decision was announced. Humanity would be granted Tier 2 status immediately, with a path to Tier 1 status after a probationary period of 5 Earth years. All restrictions on Earth's development would be lifted. In exchange, humans would share some of their research with the Council's Science Division and allow a small group of alien scientists to study with Dr. Wright's team. It wasn't everything they had hoped for, but it was far better than the Tier 3 classification they had been facing. As the session ended, many representatives came to speak with the humans. Some were curious, others seemed eager to establish good relations with the species that had surprised them all. Even some of the Dravik approached, their manner more respectful than before. Kilvox of the Tellerans was one of the last to speak. With them, "You have changed the Council today," he told Captain Harris. "For the first time in thousands of years, the old order has been shaken. Many species are reconsidering what they thought was impossible. That's what humans do best." Captain Harris replied with a smile. "We challenge the impossible." Later that evening, the human delegation gathered in Ambassador Phillips's quarters to celebrate. They had achieved more than they had dared to hope. "A toast," Phillips said, raising a glass of something that wasn't quite wine, but was the closest the hub could provide, "to humanity's new place in the galaxy. And to Dr. Wright," Captain Harris added. "Without her science, we'd still be Tier 3. Dr. Wright smiled but shook her head. "It wasn't just me, it was thousands of scientists working together. That's another thing humans are good at: cooperation." As they celebrated, Captain Harris found a quiet moment to speak with Dr. Wright. "There's something I've been wondering," he said. "The device you demonstrated today, is that really the limit of what your technology can do?" Dr. Wright looked around to make sure no one else could hear, then leaned closer. "Not even close," she whispered. "The real breakthrough came just before we left Earth." My team believes we can create fields where time runs backwards for more than just plants. We might be able to send information back in time, maybe even small objects. That's incredible, Harris said, trying to imagine the possibilities. We need more research before we tell anyone, Wright cautioned. But yes, what I showed the council today was just the beginning. As they rejoined the others, Captain Harris looked out the window at the stars. Humanity had earned its place among those stars today, and their journey was just beginning.